What happens when Hollywood's most respected action star meets daytime television's most ruthless interrogation squad, and his legendary composure finally reaches its breaking point? You're about to witness one of the most explosive celebrity meltdowns ever captured on live television. Subscribe and let me know in the comments. Have you ever seen a celebrity completely lose it like this?
The morning started like any other at the View studio in New York City. Dwayne Johnson had arrived, fresh off the buzz surrounding The Smashing Machine, his most anticipated film in years, set to hit theaters October 3rd, 2025. The Rock, as fans knew him, was there to promote this dramatic departure from his usual action hero roles, a biographical sports drama about MMA fighter Mark Kerr that had already generated Oscar buzz. Johnson looked exactly like his usual polished self, signature bald head, black t-shirt, orange-tinted glasses, and a blue jacket. He was flashing that million-dollar smile that had made him one of the most beloved figures in entertainment. As he sat in the green room, sipping his morning coffee and reviewing his talking points with his publicist, everything seemed perfectly normal. This was supposed to be a career-defining moment. The Smashing Machine represented his first serious dramatic role with A24, the indie studio known for prestigious films. It was his chance to prove he could be more than just an action star, and early word was that his unrecognizable transformation into Mark Kerr might even get him Oscar consideration. The other hosts of The View had already greeted him warmly, Whoopi Goldberg giving him a friendly hug and praising his dramatic transformation, Sarah Haynes expressing excitement about seeing him in such a serious role, and even the usually sharp-tongued Ana Navarro making pleasant small talk about his upcoming projects, including the Martin Scorsese crime drama where he'll star alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and Emily Blunt. But Joy Behar, the veteran host known for her controversial opinions and confrontational style, had been noticeably absent from these pleasantries. When the show went live, Johnson walked onto the set with his usual confidence, waving to the audience and embracing each host as the crowd erupted in applause. He took his seat next to Joy Behar, who offered him a tight-lipped smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The interview began smoothly enough, with Whoopi asking about his incredible transformation for The Smashing Machine. Johnson answered with his characteristic charm, describing how the prosthetics and character work were so thorough that people on set couldn't recognize him when he was in full Mark Kerr mode, and how director Benny Safdie had pushed him to completely disappear into the role emotionally.
But then it was Joy Behar's turn to ask questions, and the atmosphere in the studio began to shift. She leaned forward in her chair, her expression serious as she shuffled through her notes. The room temperature seemed to drop as everyone sensed something was coming. "Dwayne," she began, her voice carrying a tone that was noticeably different from the friendly banter that had preceded her. "I want to talk about something that's been bothering me about your recent behavior and what seems like a calculated image makeover." Johnson's smile faltered slightly, but he maintained his composure. "Sure, Joy, what would you like to know?" Behar continued, her voice growing sharper. "Well, it's interesting timing, isn't it? You're facing all these reports about your unprofessional behavior on movie sets, being hours late, making impossible demands, and suddenly you're doing this serious Oscar bait movie with A24? It feels like damage control, doesn't it?" The question hung in the air like a challenge, and Johnson could feel the energy in the room change. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats, and even the audience seemed to sense that something was off. This wasn't the kind of softball question he was used to getting during promotional interviews. "I think there might be a misunderstanding here, Joy," Johnson replied, his voice still controlled but with a slight edge creeping in. "I'm not doing The Smashing Machine for any image reasons. This is the most creatively inspiring project of my career. Working with Benny Safdie in A24 has been a dream." But Behar wasn't finished. She leaned back in her chair, a smug expression crossing her face. "Oh, come on, Dwayne. Let's be honest here. You've admitted to urinating in water bottles on set because you can't be bothered to use the restroom like a normal person. You show up to sets hours late because of your precious workout routine. And now you expect us to believe you're suddenly this serious, dramatic actor? Don't you think that's incredibly disrespectful to your coworkers and to real actors who've been doing this their whole lives?
The accusation hit Johnson like a physical blow. His jaw tightened, and for the first time in the interview, his famous smile completely disappeared. The other hosts looked stunned, with Whippy actually turning to stare at Behar in disbelief. "Joy," Johnson said, his voice now barely controlled. "I came here to talk about my work, to have a pleasant conversation, and to connect with the audience. I don't know why you're attacking me or what you're trying to accomplish here." "This is exactly what you signed up for, Dwayne," Behar shot back. "You signed up to be a public figure, to influence people. And with that comes accountability. You can't just hide behind your charming persona when someone calls you out on your behavior." "And let's talk about this convenient career pivot," Behar continued. "You've been making the same muscle-bound action hero movie for 20 years, and now suddenly you're this deep artistic performer? You're working with Martin Scorsese, you're getting Oscar buzz. It all feels very calculated after all the negative press about your behavior." Johnson's breathing became more pronounced. "That's completely unfair, Joy. I've worked incredibly hard to earn these opportunities. Directors like Benny Safdie and Martin Scorsese don't just hand out roles as favors." "Oh, you have worked hard? What about the crew members who have to work around your ridiculous schedule? What about Emily Blunt and the other actors who have to pretend you're not the same guy who shows up hours late and treats sets like his personal gym?"
The tension in the studio was now palpable. Johnson's publicist, watching from the wings, was frantically trying to get the attention of the show's producers, but the cameras kept rolling. "You know what I think this is really about, Joy?" Johnson said, his voice now carrying a dangerous edge. "I think you can't stand that someone like me has been successful. I think you can't stand that I've built something positive." "Positive?" Behar laughed harshly. "Let's be real, Dwayne. You've been making the same movie over and over again for 20 years. You play the same character in every single film. The only reason you're finally working with directors like Scorsese is because you're desperate to be taken seriously as an actor." "That's not true," Johnson replied, but his voice was starting to crack. "Isn't it? You've built your entire career on being fake nice, on this manufactured positivity that's honestly nauseating. And now that people are calling you out on your real behavior, you can't handle it." Behar seemed to sense weakness and pressed harder. "And let's talk about your health issues. You've been very public about your gut problems and heart scares. Don't you think that's karma catching up with you for all the stress you've put on other people?" Johnson's face flushed red. "How dare you bring my health into this? That's completely out of line." "Is it? You put everything else out there for public consumption, your workouts, your diet, your motivational messages. But when someone questions whether your lifestyle and behavior might be affecting your health, suddenly it's off limits?" "You want to know what I think?" Behar continued, her voice becoming shrill. "I think you're a fraud. I think this whole nice guy act is completely fake, and the reports about your behavior on set prove it. You're just another entitled Hollywood star who thinks the world revolves around him." Johnson stood up from his chair, his massive frame suddenly seeming even more imposing under the studio lights. The sudden movement caused a ripple of concern among the crew. "You know what your problem is, Joy," he said, his voice now booming across the studio. "You've become so cynical, so bitter, that you can't stand to see someone actually trying to inspire people."
"Inspire people?" Behar also stood up, though she was dwarfed by Johnson's massive frame. "You want to talk about inspiration? Your own grandfather died at 45 because he ignored his health problems. And here you are doing the same thing, ignoring the problems everyone else is telling you about your behavior. You're not inspiring anyone, Dwayne. You're just a cautionary tale." The comparison to his grandfather was clearly the final straw for Johnson. His face contorted with rage, and he took a step closer to Behar. "How dare you?" Johnson said, his voice now a dangerous whisper that somehow carried more menace than if he had been shouting. "How dare you bring my grandfather into this? How dare you suggest that I'm anything like what caused his death?" The other hosts were now on their feet as well, with Whoopi moving between Johnson and Behar. Okay, let's all just take a breath here," she said. But Johnson wasn't finished. He pointed his finger directly at Behar, his voice rising again. "You want to know what's really disgusting, Joy? What's disgusting is taking someone's personal family tragedy and using it as ammunition in your petty attack. What's disgusting is the way you've made a career out of tearing people down instead of building them up." Bahar's face had turned red with anger. "Don't you dare lecture me about my career. I've been speaking truth to power for decades, while you've been playing dress-up and pretending to be a hero." "Truth to power?" Johnson laughed, but it was a bitter, humorless sound. "You wouldn't know truth if it came with a script and a teleprompter. You've been living in your little bubble of privilege and cynicism for so long that you've forgotten what real people actually face every day." The studio was now in complete chaos. The producers were frantically trying to figure out whether to cut to commercial, the other hosts were attempting to restore order, and the audience was sitting in stunned silence. "At least I'm trying to help people, Joy," Johnson continued, his hands shaking with rage. "At least I'm trying to make the world a better place. All you do is tear people down, criticize, and spread misery. When was the last time you actually did something positive? When was the last time you lifted someone up instead of tearing them down?" Johnson began removing his microphone, his movements deliberate and controlled. "You know what the saddest part of all this is, Joy? The saddest part is that you probably had dreams once too. You probably believed in something once, and somewhere along the way, you gave up on those dreams. And now you can't stand to see anyone else holding on to theirs." "Don't you dare psychoanalyze me, Dwayne Johnson," Behar shot back, her voice becoming shrill and defensive. "Don't you dare pretend like you know anything about my life or my dreams." But Johnson was already walking toward the exit. He turned back one last time, addressing the cameras directly. "You know what? I'm done here. I'm done pretending that this kind of toxic behavior deserves a platform. I came here to talk about inspiring young people, especially young women, through characters like Maui in Moana. I came here to discuss the importance of empowering our daughters and showing them they can achieve anything. Instead, I found someone so consumed with negativity that she couldn't even let that positive message exist without trying to poison it." He looked directly into the camera. "To everyone watching at home, don't let people like this steal your hope. Don't let bitter voices convince you that dreams don't come true. And don't let anyone tell you that trying to be better, trying to inspire others, trying to lift people up is somehow wrong." Turning back to Behar one final time, his voice now calm and measured, "I don't need to pretend anything, Joy. Everything I need to know about you, you've shown me in the last 20 minutes. You've shown everyone watching exactly who you are." And with that, he pushed through the door and disappeared, leaving behind a studio full of stunned silence and one of the most explosive television moments in recent memory. The camera lingered on Bahar's face, capturing every emotion that flickered across her features: shock, anger, hurt, and something that might have been shame. Finally, Whoopi cleared her throat and looked directly into the camera. "Well," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "we'll be right back after this commercial break." But everyone knew that there would be no coming back from what had just happened. What did you think of this incredible confrontation? Have you ever seen a celebrity completely lose it like this during a live interview? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more shocking celebrity moments that you won't see anywhere else.